Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. Happy New Year! Welcome to 2026. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined as always by my friends and yours, Doominal Crossing, Dakota Lasky. How was your New Year, gentlemen? Did you guys get up to anything fun? And did you celebrate?
I most certainly did. For my actual New Year's celebration, pretty chill. Just had some drinks with my friends and their partners. Didn't get too sloshed, just a little tipsy with some of those pre-made Jack and Cokes that they have in the Target. Gotta say, the vanilla and the cherry ones are really delicious. Highly recommend those if you want a good pre-made Jack and Coke there. But yeah, over the weekend I was in SAC Anime. Not too special. I go to SAC Anime at least once, usually a couple times a year, but this SAC Anime was a little bit more special, as some of you all in the Discord know that I posted. I was originally going to keep it a surprise for today, but I couldn't help it. I wanted to show it off as soon as possible. But yeah, this SAC Anime, they were doing a flash tattoo event. And for those who don't know what a flash tattoo event is, it's basically there's these pre-selected designs that you can get for like a discounted price to what the shops usually charge. And my friend showed me the advertisement. I didn't even know they were doing this. And sure enough, they had an entire page dedicated to Metroid, including the Screw Attack logo, the Mercury Steam Screw Attack logo, specifically used in Samus Returns and Dread, which is my favorite iteration of that. And I've wanted to get that for a while, but it was all something that's just like, I'll do it eventually. I'll do it some Sunday. But yeah, I saw that and I was figuring, you know what? If there's ever a time to do it, now's the time. And it is official, permanently inked on my right shoulder is the Screw Attack from my favorite series. And also, like, because it was used in Metroid Dread as well, a very special tattoo in a sense for me, kind of commemorating that long wait for Metroid Dread that I've been daydreaming about since elementary school. So a little bit more of a special meaning for me there. But yeah, Doom has come out into 2016, a new man with a fresh new tattoo, nice. His first tattoo, in fact. And yeah, wild stuff, man. Honestly,
Doom, will you be getting a tattoo of the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond artifact to also commemorate that long wait?
I don't know. That sounds more like Dax Avenue. I think that's the tattoo for him.
Yeah, right on the heart.
But no, yeah, oh yeah. Pain-wise, honestly, didn't hurt at all. It felt like like a light scratch, like if someone was like rubbing a nail against your arm. The aftercare, way more annoying than the actual process of getting the tattoo. So okay. Yeah, if that's something that anyone here is listening to, if you haven't gotten a tattoo before, that's something I would definitely recommend doing some research on first, is aftercare. Because that's definitely one thing I wish I had researched more beforehand. But nonetheless, we're rolling. Tattoo still looks fantastic. No infection yet. So yeah, very, very happy to be here today.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Tattoo looks great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dak, what about you? What's going on?
I don't have a big story or new tattoo or anything. I just got together with some friends for New Year's Eve and had a little shindig, and that's about it. So yeah, here we are in the new year already. But that's all I got. Nothing crazy on my end. Just a little fun party.
Honestly, we didn't do anything over at my house. My buddy was going to have just a small gathering, but got canceled at the last minute. Unfortunately, his partner has to undergo chemo, and sometimes that can take a couple of extra days to she was sicker than was expected, so needed a rest and recovery day. So we spent like the night watching wrestling. And we went bowling during the day with my cousins, and honestly, that was pretty much it. That was our New Year's Eve, watching wrestling and drinking Jones soda, which I don't know if you guys have in this. Do you guys have that?
We do. It's been a while since I've had a Jones though. They used to be huge in like the mid 2000s, kind of the 2010s.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
it's been a while since I've like seen them in stores. So
I
yeah, that's cool.
had
I used to love them.
I had a Jones soda bottle for like 20 years that had, maybe not 20 years, okay, 10 years, that had this Samus on it from Metroid Prime Hunters, like her character art.
I was about to say that was a promo they did. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah, and I threw it away, and I wish I wouldn't have. But anyways, we're hoping that you guys all celebrated the new year with friends, family, loved ones, and we hope that you're ready for an action-packed 2026 because, well, we're going to talk about what we want from the Metroid series and what we can realistically maybe expect from the Metroid series today's episode and what that's going to look like in year to come. I think there will be a lot of Metroid Prime 4 fallout, of course, as the year progresses, but maybe some new stuff as well. We'll see. One thing that I did just want to mention off the top of the show is that next week we are finally answering your Metroid Prime 4 questions. There are 2 ways that you can submit a question to the show. 3 ways, actually. Number 1, easiest way is to join our Discord. Find it. It's in the podcast notes. Come join. Come talk with Metroid fans. We have a dedicated question channel. And if you ask the question in there, it will be answered on this show. The second way is that you can check us out over on Blue Sky at Omega Metroid. We'll have a post up and reply to that with your question, and we'll get to that too. Third way is if you're listening on Spotify, just leave a comment, and we'll get to that as well. But a lot of people have been waiting for this for a long time. We already have a ton of questions geared up and ready to go. And now that we are officially, we had the big 300 episode extravaganza. We gave our thoughts on the ending of Metroid Prime 4. Now we can move on and discuss other people's thoughts. And maybe, hopefully, there's some different perspectives over there that can maybe cast a more positive light on this ending. So we'll see, but we definitely want you to get your questions in and give us some stuff to talk about for the next couple of weeks. Definitely next week for sure. One thing that we do want to kick off today, though, with before we get to what we want from Metroid in 2026, is we mentioned it last week, about a week or 2 ago now. There was a Famitsu article that dropped. And it was actually between like the interviewee or the interviewer and an unnamed developer at Nintendo. They don't specify who this actually is. But we were waiting on a official translation before we really went and really dug into the meat and potatoes of this interview. And luckily, Shinesparkers today, our pals over at Shinesparkers, have fully translated this interview. Done just a really great job of doing so. So I cannot recommend that you check this out enough. It's over at their website, and I want to give a special shout out to Darts for the translation. I don't know Darts personally, but man, just an absolute legend for doing this. So thank you for doing that. And it's a really fascinating read, to be honest with you, because I think that there is moments during this where it feels to me like the developers are making admissions that maybe this game isn't everything that it could have been. It also feels like there are other moments to me where I read this and I am just like, dude, what planet do you live on giving this answer to this question? And it has to be said, like, this is a pretty soft interview. Like, there is certainly no challenging questions. There's no nothing is going to stick out in like any kind of I don't know, like really challenging way. So Shinesparkers again has done a really great job, and they've actually highlighted a bunch of the key takeaway points. And I thought that maybe we could just start there. Doom, I know that you had a chance to kind of read this though. Did your, I guess, like before we get into it, did your initial impressions match mine as well in terms of like the tone of this?
Yeah, pretty identical. And we were discussing this last week. It felt like almost like a, I think you use the word post-mortem to describe the interview, which I totally agree. Not like a full post-mortem, like they're, I think they're primarily interested in kind of going into the behind the scenes processes, but as a part of that, they do kind of like, they do kind of like go into detail and explain like a lot of the reasonings behind certain decisions and the choices that, the person being interviewed makes is a lot of stuff that happens to be a lot of the things that people are in contention with in regards to this game. And
Yeah.
at least to me, that felt like a deliberate choice, not like a coincidence.
Yeah. Dak, did you get a chance to read that? I know that you did, actually. What was your just like high level takeaway?
Yeah, pretty much agree. Some aspects of it are certainly like trying to maybe soften the blow on some stuff. Other stuff felt very just disconnected, and I don't know who, like you said, I don't know what they were thinking or where. There's certainly some aspects of the interview where I felt sympathetic, where clearly they had obviously been giving kind of like a rough hand with having to restart development, and that really kind of it didn't just hamper how the game turned out, but also their flexibility, right? Like they couldn't go back to the drawing board a second time, I think is how it was put in the interview, right? So there's some choices that they had made or it had already been made for them in some cases that they couldn't really swerve away from. So
Yeah.
it was certainly a combination of like pity and some understanding and certainly still some continued bewilderment on my end.
Is it is it safe to assume that we are hearing from Ketsuke Tanabe here?
That's what it feels like. They never say in the interview, but like I would
what it feels like to
imagine
me.
because that's usually yeah, because he would be like one of the main people overseeing development. He's usually the person that's interviewed when it comes to like these kind of behind the scenes projects. So while there isn't really any evidence per se that leads to Tanabe, I would imagine that's the person behind the interview.
I mean, it is interesting that they don't list who it is. Who no one wants to put their name. Either no one wants to put their name to these answers, or they don't want anyone to get targeted for their answers, or
I bet
they don't
you
want
that's
to,
it.
I mean, it could be either one. I mean, certainly if I think if it was someone who is a leader of the team, they should put their name and not hide behind like it's not an anonymous interview. It's it's not like there's like a criminal investigation happening or something, and they have to keep it under wraps. Like it's a video game, so the fact that they can't even say who it is, it's either a leader who doesn't want to be named, or it's a staff member who was given this position to do it, and they don't want them to be shamed.
And it's funny because like one of our biggest criticisms in like the Prime 1 through 3 retrospective is like other than Tanabe, no one gets credited. Funny enough, in a portion of this interview, the person being interviewed that we're assuming is Tanabe, they actually give a huge credit to Steve Berg for who is responsible for a lot of the art direction, specifically the environmental art in this game. And I guess he was responsible for a lot of the Lamorne architecture, including stuff in like the Chrono Tower. And that's definitely like a positive shout out. Definitely not like anything that could be interpreted as negative. And that's also something that like even the people who don't like the game seem to agree on is like, yeah, the art direction and the actual technicality of the game is fantastic, but everything surrounding it is where the criticism begins. So I thought that was really interesting given Nintendo's stance on like crediting as of recent.
Okay, guys, let's dive in here. So immediately our first highlighted point that I wanted to get into. The question is, what was the context behind the game's development? And I'm just going to say the development team says the project began following a request from Nintendo of America. Strange that it wasn't, I guess, from Nintendo of like Japan or whatever. But nevertheless, the highlighted response here, which I think is the big important part that jumps out. We also wanted this game's story to focus on the relationship between Samus and Sylux, something that we were already planning to explore at some point.
I'm still waiting for that game.
Maybe that's Metroid Prime 5. I don't know.
I think anytime they say in this interview, like, we wanted to do this, we wanted to focus on that, it ends up being like a single moment or thing that happens in the game, and that's it. So yeah, like the whole point about like the hesitation theme or whatever, and conflict theme later that they're gonna bring up, like that maybe is a single moment in the entire game. So I wonder if that's like they just couldn't realize what they wanted, or they created something and now they're trying to retroactively be like, yeah, this is actually what the game was about the whole time. I mean, clearly, someone in Nintendo wanted to do something with Samus and Sylux, to some degree, but certainly this is not the way we were hoping for.
I mean, it really does feel like you had two opposing forces here, doesn't it? Like someone wanted to do a Sylux story, someone wanted to do a Lamorne story, and they just like couldn't interweave those in any kind of satisfying way. But let's move on. So they talk a little bit about how the game's artwork and I guess like the structure of Metroid Prime 4 was outsourced, and how that took a long time itself. Retro was not really prepared to go ahead and do this. And they kind of say, like, listen, a lot of these new people that we brought on to do this game didn't maybe understand what Metroid was, reading between the lines, which I don't know, that seems wild to me. Like, I feel like if you, and maybe I'm totally off base here, but I feel like if you're like a game developer, you should probably have a good idea about like what different genres really offer you. So like, anyway,
I agree with that interpretation.
Well, I guess like for me, I'm like, if I am cast in the Lord of the Rings movie, I'm probably going to read the Lord of the Rings book to get ready for that. So if I am hired to work on a Metroid game, I might play Super Metroid, or I might play Metroid Prime. I might play the entire trilogy, but I guess that's just my assumption. They said, we weren't just making a game, but crafting a player experience, and in particular, to grasp the concept of Ma, which is negative space, that is so characteristic of Metroid Prime. I'm not really sure that I fully get the concept that they're going for here. It's clearly like a Japanese term that doesn't necessarily translate super clearly into English here, but I mean, it does kind of feel like you can tell that maybe the developers weren't quite on board with like the atmosphere that a typical Metroid Prime game might bring. I think that's fair to say. It's there in pockets, but certainly not like throughout the whole experience.
I would say, like, in regards to the interview, I'm sure there was like some of that in like training developer, like, hey, here's specific things that you might not think about, in terms of like crafting a Metroid Prime specific experience. But I think a larger part of it is just kind of Nintendo's development style in general, in contrast to Western development, which is something that Tanabe also goes into detail with the Prime 1 through 3 volume retrospective. And given that there was a ton of brand new people, now working at Retro, whose, first game at Retro is Metroid Prime 4, it makes sense that, that there's going to be a significant pipeline in terms of like getting that person from point A to point B, in terms of like, working from a Western point of view to working like in Nintendo's, how a Nintendo workflow would go. So I think that's where the bulk of that comes from, or at least that's the way I interpret that in the interview.
I would just say that if I was told that the development team had never played a Metroid game before and then made this game, I would believe it.
Well,
so that's the vibes I got. That's almost, I feel like, what they were trying to not say but say.
Yeah, I could believe that as well. This jumped off the page to me, so the next question is, with this being the first new numbered entry in 18 years into the Metroid Prime series, did the change of the times influence development in any way? And assuming Tanabe here acknowledges, which I think is very clear, at the time of the project, maybe due to the influence of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, we noticed quite a lot of opinions on the internet along the lines of, I want to try an open world Metroid. Hey, I'd like to try an open world Metroid too. I think that would be really great. However, Metroid's core principle of acquiring new abilities to expand the explorable space didn't mesh well with the go anywhere you want from the start promise of open worlds. Because of that, we decided to restrict the freely explorable space and make it a hub that connects the other areas between them. We also figured that by allowing players to comfortably traverse that area with a bike, this could make exploration less stressful and add some variation to the game's overall pacing. a few thoughts here, I guess, and
the devastating effects of Breath of the Wild on the gaming industry cannot be understated.
I guess. I've played a decent amount of open world games, as I'm sure that we all have here, and I will say, like, Breath of the Wild, and let's just throw Tears of the Kingdom in there. Like, Breath of the Wild is one of the best games I've ever played, but like, it's not every open world game allows you to go anywhere, do anything right away. Like, there are restrictions on lots of open world games that you encounter, and you don't unlock new portions of the map until you acquire certain items, hit certain story points. So I kind of, like, I guess, disagree with the notion that open world and Metroidvania are, like, inherently contradictory. I think that you can make them work, and Dak, I think you said earlier today, even, like, you could even just do it where, like, you just have a really big area. Like, you could have a couple interconnected really big areas, and I think that would be totally fine here. So I feel like, and I feel like this about Metroid Prime 4 in general, it doesn't commit. Like, it doesn't commit to either being, like, a really great Metroidvania or really getting Metroid into that open world space. And I think, and sorry, I'm going to let you guys go here in just a quick second here, but I might as well just finish off the quote. Consequently, completing the game took longer than expected, and we could see the players' opinions of open world games were starting to shift, but nonetheless, we couldn't see ourselves going back to the drawing board after development had already been reset once. So we decided to stick to our guns and complete the game according to the initial concept. During that time, shooters and action games evolved, but the following trends would have made it difficult to maintain the pacing of an adventure game, so we deliberately ignored them. In other words, this is a game that is nearly unaffected by the changes of the times.
It's a dated game, is what they were saying.
It's a game that just doesn't know what it wants to be. Like, it wants to be, like, new and open world, but it's not committing. But it wants to be a traditional Metroid experience, but it's also not committing there either. I took this as almost like an apology or an admission of, like, we know that this, maybe they're talking about Soul Valley specifically. Maybe this isn't, like, the end all be all for what open world Metroid could be. But yeah, just an honest quote, I think.
To me, like, I think the whole conversation of, like, can you do an open world Metroid is so focused on you can just, the fact of whether or not you can just go to a place or not at the beginning of the game at any time, which I think is too reductive of what an open world game is. To me, an open world game is, sure, like, maybe you can go wherever you want. And also in an open world scenario, like you said, you're going to be able to go to, like, maybe 5-6 different areas, but those areas might still have things you have to, barriers and obstacles you have to get by to actually unlock or whatever. But to me, an open world experience is also, like, you don't necessarily have to be doing the main story at all times. Yes. You can be doing side quests. You can be doing other things. And that's where I think Metroid is able, having, like, I think we've talked about this so many times on the show. I'm sure the community has talked about, like, Samus being able to go and do bounties, right? Like, that's an open world kind of thing where, like, she's not going after the main story. She's going and she's exploring the open world, so to speak, beyond just following point A to point B, of the main story. Ultimately, I think if you're going to do an open world Metroid, it has to have that capacity, not just be bigger or go to wherever you want at a certain point. Because eventually it does become a Metroidvania in a certain way where you're going to get to, an area. You're not going to be able to open every door at that area, even if you can go right to it. Mm-hmm. And I think this part of the interview specifically, the first half I totally got. Like, I understand, like, the compromise they were trying to make. And I think I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, just the execution was not good. I think the open admission of, like, the game is essentially, like, we all talked about how we wanted a classic Metroid Prime experience, but one that took the modern advancements of the genre and of gaming over the past 10, 20 years into account to make it a nice, fresh, modern Metroid Prime experience. And they're like, yeah, we actually, like, did the complete opposite of that. And I think it is frustrating to read that and them say essentially they deliberately ignored the changing of the times, which is not what I personally want to hear from a new game I'm excited for, unless that's the specific intent of the game. Like, they're making a retro nostalgic game or whatever, and it's meant to be, you know, subversive in that manner. But when I'm looking for a fresh new experience that still feels like what I'm used to and familiar, for them to be like, yeah, we're gonna base this game on a game that came out almost a decade ago and is now dated in many ways, even though it is still very clearly influential on this year in the industry. But to have it so focused on something and feel like, I mean, I feel like I said this through the show, it's a game that feels like should have come out 10 years ago or more, in terms of it should have came out then, and also that's how it feels like it plays, and that's literally what it is. They're admitting to that. It's a game that it's based on mid 2010s game design philosophy. So yeah, this part of the interview, on one half, I understand the compromise they were trying to make. I think it was a valiant effort, but on the other hand, it is a bit frustrating that that's kind of what their mentality was. Again, also, like I said earlier, I think it's important that they were put in a position where put into a position where they couldn't like change paths very easily after the initial restarts. They were kind of locked in. But still, I wish, you know, that wasn't. Mm-hmm. I wish that wasn't the case.
Yeah, I have a lot of different thoughts on this. I think one of the first things, I'll just go to something that hasn't been mentioned yet, or if it has, it hasn't really been focused on. But like, we'll see this throughout the interview. But there's a lot of ideas that made it into the final game that originated in the original build before it got passed down to Retro Studios, allegedly done by Bandai Namco Singapore. And the open world is one of those things. The control beam and the psychic abilities is something they mentioned later, although only the control beam had been prototyped in that build, according to this interview. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things that kind of. I guess when we completed the game, I think one of the biggest questions is like, you know, how much of this was Retro's original idea and how much of this was based on the original build. And honestly, I had assumed that like pretty much the only thing that you'd see that was similar to the original build was like, you know, Sylux being involved. That's like the one thing I would imagine was consistent between the two. Mm-hmm. But after this interview, it seems like there's a lot more stuff that, while obviously they probably didn't, you know, pass down every single exact asset. I'm sure they actually did reboot it from scratch, but a lot of those ideas that they were originally working on, it looks like they did carry over into Prime 4, and it does kind of, it does, you do kind of get that messy feeling when you're playing Prime 4, even if you are someone who does enjoy the game in spite of all that. I think most people can agree that it is a little bit, you know, of a messy feeling experience. Maybe you enjoy the mess, maybe you don't, but I think messy is a fair word to use here. And I think that kind of descriptor is a huge reason why, is because they had to revive a lot of those ideas. But yeah, I do also want to focus on that quote at the end, though, because it's really weird, because when it comes to the example used, I actually don't mind, because they use, when talking about, like, you know, it's a game that feels like, you know, it hasn't been influenced by the modern times. They use kind of Samus's movement speed, and they specifically talk about high-paced shooters. I'm assuming the first thing that I think of when I hear that is, you know, the modern Doom games. I also think of Titanfall 2 when it comes to, like, big hyper fast-paced shooter, or even like battle royales, like, you know, has a lot of sliding and, you know, fast movement options now. So those are kind of the options I imagine they're thinking of when they say that. And I actually, when it comes to like Prime 4 not modernizing on some of those original concepts, I actually don't mind Samus's movement speed being one of those things you carry over. I do think there is a way where you could give Samus a faster movement speed while still allowing for those slower moments, which I think are imperative to a Metroid Prime experience. But I also don't think that default increase of speed is a necessity. And so when I'm looking at that quote, I guess I'm wondering to myself, is this interviewer, or not the interviewer, is the person being interviewed Tanabe? Well, I'm just going to say Tanabe because this will be less confusing. Is Tanabe saying, when he does that quote, is he specifically using it for that example, or is he using that as the entire philosophy of this game? Because if it is for the entire game's philosophy, obviously I'm with everyone else, where I fundamentally disagree with that. I think it shows in the game, and I think there's plenty of stuff where they could have modernized it. And by not taking that opportunity, it does feel very derivative while also not fully capturing that experience. And so you kind of get, you know, it's a glass half empty situation. Whereas, you know, if he was just using that quote kind of out of thin air to describe the movement, I don't really think the movement is the game's problem personally.
I haven't heard.
Sorry
anybody...
for the long diatribe.
No. I haven't heard anybody complain about like Samus herself, like the move speed. I think that is like so low on the list of problems with Metroid Prime 4.
I would think that's part of the reason why I don't think the combat's that great, but I don't think it's a major significant aspect of it. It's part of an amalgam of problems.
This is like sorry, Dak. I'm reading this and I'm listening to like what you said, Doom, and it's just like when this game was rebooted in 2019, why did you keep some of these design principles that aren't working?
See, I think we're all misunderstanding what actually happened. I don't think the game was. I don't think like when they said when they said we restarted development, I don't think they meant they rebooted development. I think it's like restarting and starting a car, right? Like the game development was happening, it stopped, and then it started again from wherever it was, except now Retro was doing it. And that's why so much of the original stuff carried over, because Retro wasn't rebooting it from scratch. It wasn't just assets like, all right, we have all these concepts, all these gameplay mechanics, all these things. Now we have to finish them. They essentially had, a marble, like, I don't know, some kind of statue, right? And it was already kind of shaped, and now they had to actually, precision shape it, right, and finish it. So I think that's the biggest misunderstanding. Retro, I don't think was ever in a position where, because the leadership very clearly was the same across both projects, right? It was just the studio actually making the game change. But Tanabe was very clearly at the head of both iterations of the game, because he talks very clearly as being connected to both in this interview, and previously I think we understood it to be the case as well. I think Retro got handed the game as it was. I mean, they even say in the interview, like, they came up with the concept for the psychic abilities, and like, we came up with one, Retro's got to Retro figured out the rest. And that seems to me like whoever was originally developing the game couldn't finish it for whatever reason. It wasn't that Nintendo was unhappy with the direction they were going in. It was that they literally, for whatever reason, couldn't finish it, or their quality of what they were, right, something like that. And then Retro picked it up, but Retro did not come in and just come up with all whole new ideas. I would say probably everything in this game, from the core idea of whatever was put in, was pre-Retro. Like psychic abilities, Sylux, Vuros, the bike, all of that stuff was not Retro. Maybe the bike was added later, but like all of that stuff, like Soul Valley, all that stuff was not Retro. Retro was brought in to finish the work that had already been started. So I think we have to move away from thinking of this as like a full reboot. There was never a full reboot. It was a stoppage and then a restart of one full game development.
I think the reason we use full reboot is because, at least in the original Shinya Takahashi video when it was announced, he specifically
I agree.
That.
I'm saying that they're it seems like they're misspeaking when they said that.
It seems like they are,
which I agree
misleading,
with you.
Almost. It maybe not misleading. That's harsh, but like, it certainly doesn't seem like the core concept of the game was scrapped. Like, my interpretation, and I think all of us were just like, okay, so the original developer had a concept for Metroid Prime 4. This concept stunk, and maybe their developers weren't on the same skill level as who was there at Retro. Although they admit that they didn't have half the people that they needed to do this at Retro. It does seem very curious at the way that Nintendo framed it versus like, it certainly seems like a lot more than maybe all of us thought lived on from the canceled version to the final version that Retro.
I think ultimately, like, the canceled version of the game, had the original studio stayed behind it, would have been very similar to what we got and what we ended up getting. Like,
I think at this point, yes.
I don't think it would have changed the remote. Maybe it wouldn't have looked as nice,
and it might not have played as nice to be, because there are bright spots in Metroid Prime 4 for sure. But I agree with you, Dax. Like, I think you're right.
But I think the end product, the vision of the end product, and what we end up getting, I probably would have been the exact same, or very, very similar.
We would, all three of us would probably still be complaining about the story in the Bandai Singapore.
Well, it would be the same game, except the game would probably look and feel worse. So even, like, it wouldn't be like a nice graphical, awesome game probably, and it probably wouldn't run nice and all that kind of stuff, but it would probably fundamentally still have the same story and location and gameplay ideas and that kind of stuff.
I wanted to just quickly go back to Breath of the Wild here for a second. So, I mean, you guys know me, Zelda fan. I joined Zelda Dungeon basically when Breath of the Wild came out. I was kind of reflecting the other day because I was talking to some of my colleagues at ZD, and I was like, man, the Metroid Prime 4 and Breath of the Wild had not quite the same, but like a similar-ish trajectory with their development. And I was just reflecting, like, literally everything went right for Breath of the Wild. Like, everything went right when that game came out. The reviews, the game of the years, the sales, the cultural impact, like, everything that could go right for that game did. And I do wonder, like, again, if maybe to a certain subsect of fans like me that also maybe put Metroid Prime 4 into an unrealistic category, thinking that could happen again. But certainly you cannot say everything went right for Metroid Prime 4 coming out of the gate, for sure.
I think going back to the original part of the interview where they were saying how Nintendo of America suggested Prime 4 would be made, I think it's such a shame that like they needed Nintendo of America to be like, you should make another Metroid Prime game. Like the fact that they weren't making another one right after 3, you know, like Prime 4 should have come out before Breath of the Wild. This never would have even happened. Maybe 5 or 6 might have been more Breath of the Wild-y, but at that point the game would have probably come out a few years removed from Breath of the Wild and not 8 or 9 years afterward or whatever it is. Ultimately, it's trying to be a game.
Oh,
yeah, so like that's the fact that even happened at all is it's a domino effect. It's a butterfly effect.
Well, let's go on. I love this. What is the meaning behind the subtitle Beyond? It means beyond time and space. Good question, good answer.
Who even is the? I can't be Tanabe, bro. Like, who is answering these questions?
I would love to know which.
This is exactly why they didn't say who it was, because this is the reaction these answers are getting.
It should be noted too. They don't mention who this hard hitting interviewer is either with these with these questions.
Real hard hitting.
Okay, so I think this is a pretty honest answer. The question is, what would you say is without a doubt the main appeal of Metroid Prime 4? And the very first thing, we use the hardware to its fullest potential. Gameplay-wise, offers unique first-person adventure experience. And if you play it all the way to the end, it is a memorable experience that leaves you with much more than the satisfaction of beating a game. You know what? That is technically...
That's true.
That is not a lie, okay?
That is very true.
It is a very memorable experience, and you will feel things other than satisfaction.
It is the experience of all time.
I mean, you can't not see it. Like, this game is beautiful. It looks incredible. So, like, that is without a doubt, I think, the main appeal of Metroid Prime 4 is, like, how it looks and how it performs.
I do, and I hate to bring it up because we swore that we would not bring it up for a long time, but we're in the post-launch now. I think we can, but, like, you know, there's a lot of talk about the marketing, obviously. Marketing that we were sick and tired of talking about pre-release of the game. And I still don't fully grasp, you know, what all of the marketing issues were. But obviously I know a lot of people did have issues with the marketing leading up to launch. I know even Kit and Krista did, and their job at Nintendo when they were working there was marketing. So I imagine, like, if they have issues with it, that has to mean something at least. And I do almost wonder if, like, the weirdness, because I initially thought the weirdness of the marketing was just due to the Switch 2, and then once we crossed over that hurdle, it was whatever. But I almost wonder if there was a weirdness of marketing, because it almost sounds like when Tanabe is talking about, like, the appeal of the game, first thing he jumps to is the graphics, the visuals, the technical capabilities. The one thing that everyone in online in unison agrees is, like, the shining star of the game. Like, even if it's the worst game you've ever played, it looks damn good. And that's the first thing Tanabe goes to as well. I almost wonder if, like, pre-release to Prime 4, even before the previews, there was kind of, like, this awareness that, like, I don't know, this game's a bit of a mess. And maybe that played into the marketing as well. I'm almost getting kind of that vibe the more of the interview that I read and listen to.
Maybe. I think the marketing was fine for what this game was. I think if anything, like, obviously people wanted a Nintendo Direct, I think, was the big thing. But, like, there is not enough meat on the bone in this game to have a Nintendo Direct. Like, there just wasn't, right? Like, it's a pretty straightforward game, and I think it does kind of feel like they were trying to slide in the Galactic Federation troopers kind of under, you know, unannounced a little bit. Like, you play the game and you experience them. Maybe that was intentional, maybe not. I don't know. I think I think it was fine, but hey, we'll see. I guess what the sales end up being. Let's jump ahead and we can talk about this. We can talk about this quote. I guess we can spend as much or as little on it as we want. This is just about Viola. And they're asking a question about, please tell us how Viola came to be, what aspects you focused on. Also, any advice to get good at driving it? Well,
if you need advice to get good at driving this thing, you need to stop playing video games. You're not allowed.
Luckily,
Candy Crush.
In Volt Forge, there is a really thorough certification process for all
isn't there? That's the whole part of the game is the tutorial. You can't avoid.
That's right. So they say, in order to satisfy both the moving around freely at high speed in a large area and the stylish aspects, we determined that, quote, riding a bike would be an optimal solution. I have a better idea. You guys want to hear it? I think that if you press start, the camera should pound out of Samus's visor, and she is speed boosting.
Well, if you go into the interview, they actually mentioned that's something. I don't know if they prototyped it, but that's something that they were at least considering at one point. But then they didn't, and it's like, what the hell?
You know what? Like, I mean, as much as I wanted it to be the speed booster, I want it to be your gunship. Like, I get it. They wanted Samus to be able to move across the desert and also have it look cool. So I understand that, like, okay, the bike satisfies that. Even though I think you can make the gunship look cool, and I think you can make the speed booster look cool. I understand, like, very easily, like, the bike is cool. It's a cool marketing thing. It's cool for visuals. It looks cool. It's stylish is a word they use, which I think, maybe a bike is more stylish than Samus just running. So, like, this, even though it's not what I wanted, like, the Viola was a cool surprise, even though it just feels like many things in this game just very random. I don't hate the reasoning behind it. I get it. They wanted a way to move across the sand quickly and also have it be stylish and cool. The bike does do that. So,
I love fair. Viola. I have to say, I think it's great.
Yeah. To be fair, it's not Viola that's the issue. It's more the environments that
the Viola is not the issue. It's the implementation of the bike that is the issue, not necessarily the fundamental idea, which is how many times we got to say that in this series over the past decade and a half. It's not the idea is not bad, but how you do it is very important. The execution is not as important, if not more so.
Okay, well, here we go. This was the piece of news from this interview that I think most fans gravitated towards. Dak, you go first.
I can't talk about this, man.
Okay.
I can talk about it. Like, it makes me just
let's get it out. Let's get it out of here, okay?
This sucks. This is stupid. I'm sorry, man. This is
the
dumb.
question. What can you tell us about this game's placement in the timeline? We know it takes place after Metroid Prime Federation Force, but can you give us a more precise time frame? The answer is that it is set between Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion, the first Metroid Prime game to break out of that little nook between Metroid 1 and Metroid 2. Dak is shaking his head. That being said, the answer continues. In this game, Samus is sent to another dimension beyond time and space, so you don't need to worry about the timeline. This was a deliberate choice, giving us freedom to create a truly unique setting for Metroid Prime without impacting the 2D Metroid series. So a few
literally hurts my brain.
A few quick things that I want to say before I turn it over to you, Dak. A lot of people, when this quote came out, they were just like, a new timeline? What? You're in a new dimension? A lot of people thought that they were doing like the Zelda timeline split. So I think this very clearly says like that is not the case. It's just that this adventure takes place in an alternate dimension, which you leave at the end of the game and come back to. So like the events here have no impact on the overall Metroid Prime story. So what they're saying is like, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. So and that is very, very evident in the storytelling of this game. Dak, you take big umbrage with this game taking place between Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion. What's the big deal? Tell us.
So, okay. Number one, to me, it is very careless. Okay, I care about Metroid. I would like the people who make the games to care about the games that they're making. To me, this whole answer is entirely disconnected and careless to the series. Number one, whether or not the game takes place between Federation Force and 2 or Super Infusion doesn't change the events of the game. If you're gonna, I have no problem with the Prime series coming out of the Metroid 1 and 2 time gap. But if you're gonna do that, actually do it and actually have it mean something. Don't just say, yeah, it takes place between Super and Fusion. Why? Why does it take place between there? Why is it that there are Metroids in there and Samus has no reaction to Metroids appearing in this game if it takes place right after Super? Why is it that this person says it takes place between Super and Fusion? Well, does it take place before Other M? Does it take place after Other M? Why does Samus suddenly have her Prime 3 ship again if the events of 2 and Super and potentially Other M happen in between? She's just changing. It's very careless to me, which is very frustrating because it doesn't take a lot to have cared a little bit. There's not a lot's happening in Metroid. We're not writing a game that takes place in Warhammer or Game of Thrones or something super complex. It's a very simple story. Why can't we keep things straight? Why can't we make them make sense? Why is that the option that made the most sense? And you know what? I'm okay with, Andy, you had said this a bunch of how, like, you were okay with this story happening later in the timeline because maybe it took Sylux a while to get his army together. I'm like, you know what? That's fine. You know what? That's cool. I'm okay with that. But if we're going to have that happen, the events of the game should make sense, and it should make sense with the rest of the games in the timeline. The fact that Samus doesn't have that, and the fact that the answer and then has those other bits to it, which is, it takes place in another timeline, therefore it's not a big deal. No, the game, Samus ends back presumably on the main Metroid timeline, the beginning of end of the game. So it still takes place in that. And then they go on to say, well, because of this, it doesn't affect the 2D timeline. How does putting this game randomly between Super and Fusion not affect the 2D timeline? Those are two 2D games. Whereas if you keep them in where the Metroid Prime series already is, it's already self-contained. You can put up as many, we don't have to, as long as you're not directly conflicting with the start of Metroid 2, you can do whatever you want. So to me, how is it that it doesn't make any sense. It's not the simplest and most reasonable option based on what's there. And if you're going to do this, make it matter. I'm totally cool if they do it, but it had no effect on the story and doesn't make any sense. So to me, it's frustrating because I already don't like the game. And then on top of it, they're messing with the whole timeline now. I'm like, why? Why are we doing this? It's unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary to me. And it's like you're taking the garbage out and letting the garbage fly on the ground. And on your way out, you're scuffing the door frame. Why? You can just take the garbage out. So it's all those kinds of things. I'm personally getting very sick. Dread did this, and now this game is doing it, of glossing over the events of the previous game. Very frustrating to me. And I think Thompson in the Discord server put it very, very neatly. I like the idea of a Prime moving out of the Metroid 1 and 2 zone, but Prime 4 doesn't really acknowledge or show that in any way. The game could have been set after Federation Force, and nothing about the game changes, and it'd make more sense. And I 100% agree. So I don't like it. It's going this extra length to just. It's not making the story more compelling or make more sense. It's making it more confusing and more frustrating, and it's unnecessary, and it's careless to me, and I'm not a fan of that. So that's why I don't like it.
Yes, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle, the mediator when it comes to this. So on one hand, I think it's neat. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting that we finally have set a precedent where a Metroid Prime game does not have to take place between Metroid Prime 1 and 2. I think that's cool. I don't think this is the right game to do that with. I think in-game they explain it away finally enough. If you scan Sylux, it basically says, hey, 20x6, he stole a Metroid, and for the past 3 years, he's been raiding Federation outposts. In the Tanimar outpost, he did not expect to encounter Samus. The end. Sure, whatever. But I think the big issue that I have, and it's what you just brought up, Dak, is that what is the point of this? It adds, like, you could have slotted this game anywhere, and it would have made more sense.
It might as well be after Dread at this point. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Other than Samus's suit, but they make it this big deal that, like, oh, we had to put it between Super and Metroid Fusion, and it's like, no, you didn't. This is like it feels like they just kind of threw a dart on a dartboard and like, oh yep, that's where we're sticking the game.
I don't think they said they had to put it here, to be fair.
No, yeah, they didn't. I didn't get the vibe that they felt like they had to, but that's again going back to, I feel like they didn't even think about it. What you're saying, Doom, I agree with. They were like, they just picked 2 games. They're like, yep, it happens between those 2. Sure,
not had to, but it sounds like they wanted to make it like the easiest way to not interfere with the 2D storyline. Which, first of all, Super Metroid is a very major, like, in terms of like the overall Metroid story, that is a very major story beat. You'd think if you don't want to interfere with the 2D timeline, you'd think you'd want to move as far away from that game as possible.
With it. It completely messes with it. I mean, like, how does it make any sense that Samus shows up in Prime 4 after the events of Super, has no reaction at all to Metroid showing up, and then you're telling me in Other M and Fusion, she then has a surprise reaction to Metroids, even though she just saw them in Metroid Prime 4.
I mean, to be fair, she doesn't really react to much in this game, but
no, but still, like that. At least that, like, she has nothing.
Finish your thought, Doom. Finish your thought.
Oh. Yeah, and I guess here's where I am on, because like it's a roller coaster of emotions that I feel on this, but at the end of the day, I already don't like the story. The timeline placement of this game isn't going to make me like it more or less. So I'm not do I not like it? Yeah. Do I wish it was handled with a lot more care? Yeah. I wish the entire game's narrative was handled with more care, though. And this is just kind of another extension of that on top of that. Like, more evidence that really... And I would say this is a kind of an issue I have with Nintendo in general nowadays, where just like I feel like Nintendo is just moving less and less away from narrative. And usually in like other types of games, like, you know, if Mario's moving less away from from narrative, whatever. If Zelda does, whatever. I don't play Zelda for, you know, stuff like that, but I do for Metroid.
I do, and I hate that.
It's one of the few examples of a Nintendo game where I like, and again, I'm not expecting, like, you know, this Oscar-worthy screen, you know, production, you know, with like complex themes that, like, you know, relate back to like current events in the real. I'm not expecting that. I'm just, you know, looking for, like, you know, cool narratives and and interesting concepts. And I feel like Metroid is, you know, especially in Prime 4, like the development side is less and less interested in that, and that is something, you know, a lot of this interview does kind of like give me some easy padding. Okay, that explains why that was like this. This, of all things, actually brings me a lot of concern about storytelling in Metroid, because it just sounds like they do not care.
Or they don't even know. It doesn't, like, again, it goes back to, it doesn't feel like they played or even like watched the cutscenes on YouTube or something. Like, it doesn't even think they're even aware of what's going on, or what makes sense, or what would be satisfying as a Metroid fan. And I agree, like, I'm not here for a complex story, but part of the reason that I like Metroid is that it has great gameplay, great sound and music, great world building and vibes, whatever, and a compelling or interesting story in some way. And that's not even a major case, but if you are going to have a story, usually, like, I say what you want about Fusion, but one of the reasons I like Fusion is because it has a narrative going on, and it's compelling to me. Prime 1 really doesn't have a story. It's more like lore and world building, but that stuff is cool. But when it's now like, it feels like my investment in that part of Metroid is now not like, I don't feel like I should be invested anymore, because they don't seem to care, and they don't seem to have any kind of care. Why should I? And that's very disappointing, because that's one of the reasons I like Metroid in the first place, is I'm interested in the Metroid story, and they are making me not interested in the Metroid story by doing all this stuff. That's making me less interested in Metroid in overall, because that's one of the reasons I'm here, aside from the fun gameplay and all that kind of stuff.
So I think Doom, you had said I'm going to be the mediator. I actually don't disagree with like any of that. Now, what I will say is I really like the concept of taking the Metroid Prime games and removing them from that little nook. I really like that concept.
Totally fine with that. I think we all agree that's totally fine. Like, but if you're gonna do it,
like, a lot of people were like, oh, well, that goes against the last Metroid. And it's like, man, every Metroid Fusion has more Metroids. Metroid Other M has Metroids. Metroid Dread has Samus as a Metroid. Like, that is not the concern here. What is the concern? Well, hold on. So what is the concern is that this game shows you Sylux with Metroids. To your point, Samus doesn't have much of a reaction. At that point, I can buy maybe she is stunned to see Sylux and Metroids, but like, whatever. Like, Samus is basically a big robot, like, in this game. Like, she has no personality whatsoever. Putting that to the side, but, like, that should be a big, impactful moment, and really the story driver for the entire game. If you are going to pull that lever, that should be your story for the entire game, and the Metroids are brought in, and they are dismissed. As soon as that prologue is over, you see him for that cutscene, and you never see a Metroid again. I don't care.
You see it like once or twice when one of them attaches to a boss, and then that's it.
That doesn't count. Like, I don't even care.
You don't even see him attached to the boss. Like, they're already attached
some
by
of
the
them,
time you enter the room.
Like, they're
I think
already
one of
there.
them you
they're
do
just
see it fly in.
I don't think you see it fly in for Abrax at the very beginning.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yes.
Like, they're just there, and they're just like weak points. So it's like, oh, okay.
I mean, even the space pirates are the same thing. Samus, as far as she knows, took out all the space pirates and the Metroids, and the space pirates are also there. She has no reaction to that either. It's like, whoa, why are they back?
So, like, I think like the concept is totally fine. There's no logic gaps, there's no inconsistencies, there's no contradictions, but like the way that Metroid Prime 4's story unfolds, like this big moment, this big reveal, is completely flat. And like, by the way, too, like, how many people played Federation Force and got the secret ending? Like, yes, I know you can YouTube it, but like, I feel like almost like the 2D games are great for this. They start off with like a recap of what's happened before. I was completely expecting to see a HD version of that Federation Force scene where Sylux goes in, steals the Metroid egg. I was talking with someone in the Discord, and they're like, well, how would the Galactic Federation not know this? And I'm like, well, I could think of a bunch of reasons how you could explain that away, but like the game doesn't. So it's like a huge inconsistency.
The fact that you have to like be like, well, they could explain it so many times and like play these mental gymnastics to make it work.
Right. Like,
I think
the explanation should be there. Like,
well, even if the explanation was there, they'd have to explain so many different things and pull so many things out of their butt to make it make sense. But at least they would be explaining it.
If you were Sylux, if they got this cutscene where it's just like, the Federation thinks that this Metroid egg wasn't stolen, and Sylux was like, yep, I went in, I stole it, and I diabolically hacked into the system to delete footage of me stealing it, and whatever, you know, I could totally buy that. That's totally fine. But like,
it just seems very unbelievable to me that this one individual would be able to do all of that and stay off the radar and pull all of this off. It's very unbelievable to me. And then going back to your other point about
we're
the whole
talking about
last
like Metroids and like the legendary Samus. I mean, I get your point, but that doesn't concern me.
But going back to your last Metroid thing, I think that is a big deal because, yes, you're right, the game's after Super, just because Super has the last Metroid thing and other Metroids come out after that, fine. But let's not look at it chronologically, let's look at it at the time of releases. First Fusion comes out, and when the Metroids are there, that was a shock, right?
Yeah.
And that was great, and that moment was great. And then they did Other M, and we didn't like that because it took away from that of what Fusion was doing. And now this game is further taking away from it. So I do think you can't just look at it in a vacuum and be like, well, Fusion did it, why is Prime 4 can't do it? Because Fusion did it, and then Other M did it, and now Prime 4 is doing it. So why is it's I mean, the last Metroid in Captivity, that is like the line from this game, from the series, and Fusion played with that, and that was cool. And then Other M has toyed with it, and that's, you know, now we're continuing going down this diminishing returns, and it's nullifying all this, the kind of moment of like, that was a big thing, and then it doesn't matter in the very next game in the timeline, and then it doesn't matter again, and then again in 2 more games in a row. It feels redundant, and again, it feels like it's taking away the impact of previous story beats that are so crucial to the actual overall identity of the franchise.
And then kind of going back into the original thing again, and then kind of going back, because I agree with everything you said, but again, kind of going back into the original thing, even though it's diminishing returns, at least Other M and especially Fusion do something with it. Prime 4 does nothing with it. They're there
at least
and
try to do something.
That's the insult right there. And like, I see what you're saying. I feel like for me, like, this all lives and dies with the Sylux story. Like, if you gave me a compelling reason why Sylux hated the Federation, what he did in this time to build his army, to create these Metroids, how he maybe put his new Metroid army together, that could be just as impactful as finding the Sector X in
Sure.
Metroid Fusion, but the game doesn't do that like at all, and
they still could have
it's so
kept
much
it
worse for it.
They still could have kept it in Federation Force and 2 between that. They still could have, if Federation Force could happen, and then they could say, and then some time passed, and Sylux built up an army, and then Prime 4 happens. Like, why? I don't see why we needed to have multiple games happen as well. Why couldn't just time have passed? We had to have multiple games pass as well. And then you look at, like, I mean, not that I need to validate Other M, but it feels odd to me that now Other M is so focused on the end events of Super when Samus goes to a whole other dimension, apparently, between those two games, and it has no comments and no feedback on that whatsoever in Other M. Never comes up in Fusion or Dread, obviously, because it didn't exist at that time. But now looking at it that way, I'm like, bro, Samus was tripping on some alien planet in another timeline, and that is never brought up, ever. Doesn't make any, listen, why is Other M not about that?
Don't worry about it, okay? That's the answer.
But that's the thing, is that, like, we've done 300 episodes of a Metroid show. If anything, I'm here to care about the games. And the game is telling me, don't care about it. Yeah. Like, just hit some buttons, bro. I'm like, well, then I can go hit buttons anywhere, man.
I thought that's what this, so you don't need to worry about the timeline was like... And again, I really like the idea that these games are moving beyond. I'm actually not even disputing that. Like, does it make sense for Samus to have like her Prime 3 ship after Super? No, it doesn't. It's like you that comment is right. You could have had this take place after Federation Force. You could have had it take place after Dread. Nothing changes, and I think that is to the detriment of this game. And I think that, like, don't worry about it is I don't know. It's like it's borderline.
It's insulting to me. It's insulting to me as a fan, because I'm here to care about the games, and you're telling me, actually don't care about it. I'm like, well, man, I want to care about it. I want to care about it.
And that kind of summarizes my full thoughts, where it's like, because the question is like, are you mad about the timeline placement? For me, it's like, no, I'm not mad about the timeline placement. I'm mad at what the game's story does, or in this case, doesn't do with that, and how that messes with that. And so that's why, I guess that's why for me, like, I'm not, that's not on my list of complaints. It just kind of further enlarges my biggest complaint of the game, which is just this nonsensical, egregious story.
You and I think are on the same page, Doom, and I don't even think we're on a different page either, Dak. Like, I think we all just are just like, what is up with this story? Like,
we're not entirely on the same page, but I don't
not entirely
disagree with what you're saying. Yeah. There are certain aspects of it that I definitely disagree with, but it goes back to this kind of carelessness of, they're like, yeah, whatever, it takes place in another dimension. Like, even the answer doesn't make any sense, because we all played the end of the game, and Samus very clearly goes back to the main timeline or dimension, whatever it is. So how can you even say, well, the events of the game, like, yes, the literal events of the game in between that don't take place in the same timeline, fine. But unless you stop playing the game, or you didn't see the last cutscene, like, very clearly Samus is back on Tanimar in presumably the main Metroid timeline. So, like, or dimension or universe, whatever it is.
It would have honestly been a lot more impactful for just Sylux to show up, no Metroids. They get zapped to Vuros, and, like, there's Metroids there. At least that's like an explanation. Maybe they're prehistoric.
Yeah,
I don't know.
She goes to another universe where Metroids are still alive. Like, literally writes itself. Like, she just can't. If you're gonna have this take place after Super, right, and that's where the game needs to happen, why wouldn't they just do it where, okay, Samus just dealt with the space pirates and dealt with the Metroids. Boom, they're eradicated from her timeline. She goes to a new timeline. They're there, Metroids and space pirates. Like, whoa, I just killed all of them, but in this dimension they still exist. I mean, that would have been fine. That would have been cool, but they didn't even do that.
Well, let's move on. I think that this is the low point of this interview, if you can believe it. We're an hour in, and here we go. While this game still offers plenty of Metroid's trademark isolation and exploration, it also sees Samus team up with Galactic Federation troopers. What were the intentions behind that choice? This answer, I don't know. So, the way we design games is that we usually start by establishing the theme, what we want the player to experience in that game. You know how normally the player will just press A without hesitation when finishing a game? First of all, what? Like, what? Huh? Anyways, Well, for Metroid Prime 4,
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so but I'll let you continue. But when the first iteration of this article came out, this was the part where I'm like, okay, this obviously was a mistranslation. Once we get the full translation, this is going to be a lot clearer. Nope, still just an absolute bonkers, very weird answer. Anyways, go on. Sorry.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, press A to like, what game are you playing, dude? Anyways, continuing. Well, for Metroid Prime 4, we wanted players to feel hesitation and conflict at that moment. It's for this purpose that the Galactic Federation troopers were also transported to planet Vuros. It will make sense when you reach the ending. So, first of all, no, it doesn't. Second of all, I don't recall hearing Nintendo ever kind of say, like, yeah, basically we designed the game's story and lots of elements about this game based on, like, maybe how the game should end. I think that, like, the idea of feeling hesitation and conflict at the ending, certainly not a bad idea. Link's Awakening is a fantastic example of that kind of concept. But, like, this was so I'm not going to beat up on the ending. We talked about it last week ad nauseum. We all made our opinions very clear, so I don't think that we need to tread ground there. But just like what a misguided and misexecuted.
This is the kind of thing again that's like they don't understand what Metroid is. Like, yes, Samus is not Superman, right? She's not this like pure paragon of goodness, but she's a hero. As far as we know, is a good person and tries to save, like in Fusion, she's willing to go down with the ship to stop the X parasites from spreading around. And Super, she goes out of her way, optionally, to save random wild animals while a planet is exploding, right? Like, she has that capacity to be like, put herself on the line for others and save others. Even though, yes, if you look at it logically, well, Samus is the one who should be going because she's Samus and she's the strongest. Like, the fact that throughout this whole game, Samus never tries to stop, make the sacrifice, thinks about others first, like never, is so counterintuitive to what I understand the Samus character to be. And if that is like go ahead, Doom.
I was just gonna say she does once in Flare Pool that leads to the escape sequence, but otherwise, yes.
That is true. I just did that.
Yeah,
actually,
it's yes, but like there's so many more moments where Samus is like the first one to go ahead, doesn't really seem to be bothered by people staying behind. And like I've been seeing people online. I posted some videos online for my reaction from the stream, and people are like, well, Samus is a mercenary, and like she's the one has to get the mission done. And I'm like, Samus should be doing whatever she can. She's literally like the Samus I know wouldn't leave these people stranded in another dimension with a psychotic killer. Right? Like that, she would have at least tried to stay or do something. And you know what?
Metroid
if it worked,
Prime.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were still going.
No, I'm just ranting. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say the story of Metroid Prime 2 is literally Samus going off mission to like help a species that's about to go extinct. Like she finishes her mission, she finds what happens to the Federation troopers. She could have stayed at her ship and waited for it to repair. Obviously, that'd make for a pretty boring game, but no, she didn't. She decided to keep going on, find the source of like what killed them, and then when she does, she decides to do something about it. That wasn't part of her contract. She probably didn't get paid for that, but she did it anyways and, risked her life literally taking on an entire alternate dimension and, didn't blink twice about it despite that. And so, yeah, that's when I think of Samus, that's the Samus that I think of. Like, yeah, she's a bounty hunter because she has a skill set that she's really good at. That's how she makes her paycheck, but she's also kind. She's caring. She will put herself out. She's thinking about others and will always make the ultimate sacrifice. And she'll do what's right. She's kind of, I used the term a while back on the podcast. She reminds me a lot of like Captain America in terms of like moral compass. Like that's what I think of when I see Samus. And Metroid Prime 4 is not that. And that really, I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding of the character.
Yeah, to say that like, oh, Samus is a bounty hunter, she's a mercenary, she's there to get the job done is such a complete misread of what Metroid is actually about. And yeah, I
I'm even going to say this,
part,
guys. Like,
yeah,
I think even if you stuck with the same finish where Samus has to leave these people stranded, there's just like, there's so many ways that you could do this better. Because like, the game tells us that this thing is about to explode, this teleporter. Okay, that's totally cool. But like, like again, there's no urgency, there's no intensity. They don't show that well. I just yeah, this answer to me, I just thought was like so. I mean, like, listen, it's their design philosophy. Like they can do how they want, and like there are a lot of games which do have like that ending where, you know, I'm thinking like Metal Gear Solid 3. If they designed that game with the ending in mind and then padded the rest out, totally great. But like that's a great ending, and this is like, it's just, this had to go past like multiple people in order to get approved, and I don't know who greenlit this, and like the other thing about this too is like, and I think I can safely say, of the three of us, I am the most charitable of all of your companions. I like the companions for the role that they play in this game. I think they're totally fine, but like, you have to have better companions than that if you're gonna have like a real, you know, feeling about leaving them behind. Because like I felt bad, but not because like, oh damn, Takabi is about to get zapped, but I was just like, I feel bad because like this just is not the character I know, and I think that's very different.
This goes also back to what I said earlier in the show, which was, they say this was the philosophy behind the game, but it only really happens in the end, where it gives you that moment of like, are you going to hit the button to go to the portal or not? And even then, it's not really a decision you're making, because if you don't hit that, the game ends. So you have to hit it to progress. If the game was more about making decisions and seeing the impact of those decisions, I could totally understand that, or maybe even be like, okay, that's kind of interesting. But there is no decision there. The only hesitation I had was, I'm like, wait, is this what the game wants me to do? Like, this doesn't seem right. Not because I have a moral, dramatic conflict in whether or not I need to get my job done or save these people. It was more so befuddlement of like, and confusion. So
Yeah.
again, it's a very like retroactive thing to me, where they made this dumb decision, like, well, how do we explain this stupid decision we made? Oh yeah, it's all about hesitation and conflict with these characters I don't even care about. One of them I want dead. The other one's a robot. The other one's gonna go to wherever, heaven of his god or whatever anyway. Like, I don't care about these characters. So why would there even be hesitation, other than me not even sure if that's what the game wants me to do, because I don't want to get a game over. So like, it's not like in Super where you can make an optional choice. You know, if there were some optional choices, if there was some branching stuff, that'd be cool. That would have been an interesting implementation of this philosophy. But I don't believe that was driving the game. I think they just came up with this situation. Now they're retroactively explaining it away.
I'm very curious.
There's another part of this interview, by the way, where I think they mentioned how like when the other troops, this is somewhat unrelated, when the other troops are with Samus, they go into like first rank recruit mode and go aggro. I'm like, you don't say, because I played the game, and that they're not even that. They are might as well be civilians out there that have never touched a weapon.
That was really funny, because they especially mention, and I think they're talking about Miles McKenzie, like, oh, this person is very squeamish and timid, so you know he's gonna
I quote,
he's gonna
we
run
didn't
away.
want him to seem unpleasant, so we designed him to be a bit of a silly character who is easily frightened.
Oh, so right, so true.
Yeah. But no, they talk about that, and it's like, I don't know, that described pretty much all the character AI, again, especially in that final fight where, you know, everyone is just getting down by that one attack, and it's just like, I don't know. You could have fooled me.
Yeah, I mean the rest of the interview isn't like, nothing jumps off the page to me. Just kind of talk about the graphics. There is a great quote. This kind of game might be rare in this day and age, but we believe it perfectly encapsulates the true fun of gameplay or of gaming.
Yeah, totally.
It could be rare in these days. That's for sure. Some hard hitting again journalistic takes here about like what foods Nintendo would bring to Texas when they visited, and what kind of barbecue they liked. But yeah, those are like the big talking points from the interview. I definitely encourage you to go read it for yourself. Shinesparkers did a really great fan translation. We have an article with all the key points on OmegaMetroid.com as well. So it's definitely worth reading through. And yeah, I would love to hear an interview from, I guess, like a North American perspective, just to see what the other side was like as well, and see what some of those challenges were like. But I read this interview, and there's parts of me where I'm sympathetic, and I'm like, man, I appreciate you acknowledging that maybe this area wasn't everything that it could be, but then you get some of these answers that are just like flippant, and it's just your sympathy and goodwill disappears very quickly, or at least mine did, and I think I speak for all of us saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like when it comes to the gameplay, like, I came to a better understanding after this interview, but again, when it comes to like narrative and storytelling, I just got even more worried after reading this interview, because it does feel like that's just something that, Nintendo in general is just moving more and more away from.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out in the future.
Well, we are an hour and 15 minutes in. But I do want to get to what we want to see from Metroid in 2026.
You're going to have to change the title of this episode, though. There's no way you can call it what we want to see in Metroid in 2026 and then have an hour and a half of talking about the interview.
Well, we'll have to make the title long, I guess. I have a couple things that I wrote down. And I actually think that we should just start off with Metroid Prime 4. So here is the first thing that I want for Metroid Prime 4, and based off the reception of this game, I expect this to happen. I don't want any DLC, I don't want any updates, I don't want any free content. Let's just move on. Let's move on and get all of our resources into a Metroid Prime 5 or a Metroid Prime whatever. Just move on. That's what I want from Metroid Prime 4.
100% agree. 100% agree. I will say I do think there's one small patch I'd like to see. I would like to see them, either patch in like an actual toggable hint system or decrease the frequency of the miles things. I think that's an easy enough thing, at least theoretically. Again, armchair game development.
Yeah, I guess I'm just talking like extra content necessarily.
Right. I think like a simple patch, on that level, that is something that I would like to see, but long term, I agree. I don't want any other content. I don't want like any major work done to this game. I want Retro and the development team to take a nice long vacation and then to come back fresh on the drawing board and just and more importantly, I want them to learn from the mistakes of this game. And at least when in some regards in this interview, it sounds like they're definitely thinking about it. But
I don't want them to take a nice long vacation. I made my thoughts very clear on. Take off a month and then come back, because you've got something to prove now, Retro.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I honestly was expecting you all to say what I'm about to say. I actually would like them to do some more in Prime 4.
Okay.
I was totally expecting y'all to be like, we need Prime 4 DLC stat. And I was going to be like, no, we don't. But actually, the more I think about it, I mean, yes, I do want them to put all their resources, or most of them, or all of them, or whatever it is, into a Metroid Prime 5 or whatever, right? But would it hurt to maybe add like a boss rush mode, or maybe a few extra tracks, or maybe like challenges to do on the Viola? Like, I'm not against that. That would probably be the few things that would make me want to play the game again, because I don't really have much interest in playing it on hard mode.
I mean, the thing is, would those things be neat? Sure, but like, are those things going to change my opinion of Prime 4? Also, no.
Hey, the prompt was what we want for Metroid, not what we think is going to improve the game. If my limited list of stuff for Metroid in 2026 that I think is reasonable that could happen, I think would be a very small added new content to the game. I'm not saying give me a whole new level. I'm not saying give me a post credits DLC mission or you play as Sylux, but like, I don't think it's that crazy for them to put in a boss rush mode. I mean, how hard could that really be? And add a couple new tracks for Viola, or like challenges or something like that could be fun. I would play that.
I'm not saying those scenarios are crazy. Like if you told me like, hey, I've come from the future, Prime 4 is getting a boss rush mode, they added some more Viola tracks. So they allowed you to at least revisit the old ones. I'd be like, yeah, sure, I believe it. But do I really want that? No, I at this point I kind of just want retro to move on, you know what, and just focus on something brand new rather than trying to spruce up a turd, frankly.
Maybe Bandai Namco Singapore can come back and develop those race
Yes,
tracks.
that's what I want. Bring us back. Yeah, no, I mean, no, I agreed. I agree, Doom. I mean, yeah, it is essentially polishing a turd, but I don't really realistically think anything for Metroid's going to happen this year. So like, I was just kind of. Andy said he had 8 things, and I had 1 or 2 things, so I added another one.
Yeah, how many things do you got, Doom?
I don't know. I was going to kind of spitball this off the top of my head, but that was actually one of the things that I was going to say.
Oh, I was going to do the work. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'll just give you my other 2 because Andy, you have other ones, but I'm just going to give you the other 2. I would love to get some news on Metroid 6. Mm-hmm. That'd be really great, and I would love to see Prime 2 and 3 added to Switch 2 or whatever. Like that's all I realistically want from Metroid this year, and that's all I think we would even get. So.
Yeah, let's go there because that both of those are on my list. Although I will say, let's start off with the one that I expect. I think Prime 2 ends up on NSO. I think that's pretty safe that it's going to be there at some point in 2026. The only way that it doesn't end up on NSO, I think, is if it gets a remaster, which I really don't see at this point, if I'm being honest. I think it just like ends up on NSO. I want that, and I expect that for the year. Not Metroid Prime 3 necessarily.
Right. I think I could agree with that. That's probably, in terms of like actual like new like certified Metroid news, that's probably the most likely scenario. I hope I'm wrong. I would get a kick out of Prime 2 remastered. If there's anything that could cleanse Metroid Prime 4 from my system, it's a HD Sanctuary Fortress, baby. That sounds exactly like what the doctor ordered. But yeah, we'll have to find out.
Let's go to,
in terms of.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doom. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was going to jump right to Metroid 6 as well. I think that's what you were
Let's go to Metroid 6. Yeah. So that was the first thing I wrote down. I expect Metroid 6 news this year. I expect an announcement. I want an announcement, but I expect it to be announced like maybe mid-year or something like that. And I actually separated this into 2, but I'm going to give you a 2 for here. I want Metroid 6 to release in 2026. I want it to release maybe like November, October. And I think that's not like outrageous. It has been 5 years.
That's crazy, man.
But why? It's been 5 years since Metroid Dread, assuming
they were not working on the new one immediately.
Well, okay, but assuming you're going to reuse that same engine, hopefully a lot of assets and spruce them up or whatever you need to do. I think that like the development should be a shorter time frame. It's been a long time, like between 2D Metroid games. Like I just now hopefully, maybe if I'm wrong and it doesn't release. And by the way, I don't expect it to release this year, but I want it to. I think that would be great. The only thing that I'd be fine with not releasing this year is if like the scale of the game is just like so much bigger than it was in Metroid Dread, which I would also really, frankly, expect and hope for as well. But that's a discussion for another day. But I do expect we'll get Metroid 6 announced this year, and I like don't think that it's like an impossible or tall ask that it comes out in 2026, 5 years after Metroid Dread.
Yeah, I certainly don't think it's impossible. I wouldn't put it on a 0 on the Samus percentages. I definitely think it's more likely that it doesn't come out this year. I almost said next year. Ayo, hard to believe we're in 2026 already. But yeah, I'm not expecting it this year, but I don't think it's impossible. I feel like once we hit 2027, that to me feels right time for Metroid 6.
Yeah.
Even though it ends in a 7, not a 6. All the kids are gonna love that one.
These kids, I don't understand them. Okay, so the other thing that I want for this year is an emphasis and a celebration of the 40th anniversary of this series. as we know, there was a big celebration for Mario. Zelda is about to turn 40 in like a couple weeks, and Metroid turns 40 in August. And I think that there should be like a big celebration and memorabilia, and what that looks like, I don't know, but like more stuff like Prime retrospective, a visual history, or more, release some new puzzles, release some new merch, release stuff to celebrate this series turning 40. Like, I don't think that is like like asking for a whole lot. I want it this year. I expect that we'll get something for the 40th, but I don't know exactly what. But I'm hoping that it's like some really cool stuff that comes out. Specifically, I'm hoping for Amiibo, but I'll dive into that a little bit more. What do you, I guess, like, are you expecting anything big for the 40th anniversary here?
I think this is the least realistic prediction that you've made so far, if I'm being honest. The only way that I could even see the 40th being acknowledged is if that Metroid 6 actually does release in 2026. Kind of like with Metroid Dread, where it conveniently aligned with the 35th anniversary, and they mentioned that on one of the Dread posts. I could see something like that happening if there is indeed a Metroid 6. Not even a remaster. It would have to be like a new game, like a Metroid 6. And you would get an acknowledgement maybe of the 40th anniversary there. Otherwise, you ain't hearing nothing.
There's no way we get a 40th anniversary thing. I don't even think Nintendo knows when Metroid was made, or anyone working at Nintendo even cares, or even knows that there are other Metroid games that came out besides the ones that are on Switch or even before Dread. There's no way they even acknowledge Metroid. Like I don't think that'll ever happen. That's a zero. A zero from me.
I mean, like, define, like, what we're looking for, I guess. Like, I'm not expecting, like, a big Mario-level direct with, like, 35 years of whatever, but, like, I think, like, you could definitely do something celebratory for Metroid, and I don't think, like, it's completely impossible.
But will Nintendo do it is the question, and again, like I said, if Metroid 6 releases, there is a chance, not even a guarantee, but a chance that in a blog post or something, they will also mention that it's Metroid's 40th anniversary. That is the best possible case scenario for a 40th anniversary celebration.
We'll see. I am not as down on this as you Debbie's are. I will say, one thing that I really want is, so I collect Zelda amiibo and I collect Metroid amiibo, and you guys might remember for the, I think it was the 35th anniversary of Zelda, they released like a ton of like really cool amiibo. Let me rephrase. They released a lot of amiibo and they were all Link in various different poses. This is probably more unrealistic than what I just said, because if they were to release anniversary amiibo at all, it would probably just be Samus posing in 6 different outfits. But I think it would be like so awesome to have some like Metroid amiibo like for this anniversary, like, and not just Samus. Like, give me like I don't know, Mother Brain from Nestroid, or give me like the SAX, or give me Metroid Suit Samus if you got to give me Samus.
Anthony,
something like that.
Give me Armstrong. Give me
give me Miles. Give me Big Mac.
Give me the Chadmiral.
So I can melt the Miles one into a fine paste.
I would hope for that. Now, am I holding my breath? No, I'm not. But I do want this from the series for this year.
You know, I would also not be against maybe finally seeing a remake, whether it's a Super remake or a Fusion remake or a Hunters remake, perhaps, or a Pinball remake. I was gonna say that, like, I wouldn't be against a Metroid spin-off of sorts. You know, I think we've gotten past, like, obviously I still want new Metroid, new main Metroid, but we're not in the era anymore of where, like, if a Metroid game's coming out, it has to be a new mainline Metroid game. Like, we know we got Dread, we got Prime 4, we know they're making another Metroid 2D game. They're most likely making another Prime game. You know, why can't we get another spin-off? Why can't they give the IP to a smaller studio to make like a Metroid RPG or a Metroid roguelike or something, or a Metroid trading card, like, just, I don't know, something. Like, I think I mean, what was that, like, that Zelda game, the
Cadence of Hyrule, the rhythm one.
Yeah, like a Cadence of Hyrule, something like that. Like it's a small, nothing crazy kind of game. Like why not play? You know, I'm not against that. I would be cool with that. I don't think we'll see it, but I would be down for that in 2026, perhaps.
100% with you. Yeah, and honestly, like almost any genre, like I'm up for. You know, I'll play an RPG.
I've waited. I like remember that game Sea of Stars? Like
yeah, great game.
Sea of Stars, great game. Also very fun game and
my
great
game of
to
the
look
year
at.
Actually a couple of years ago when it came out.
Why not do a Metroid turn-based RPG that's like a Sea of Stars look and play feel and just has like the Metroid characters and lore and all that kind of stuff. Like that could be fun.
Yeah.
As long as it's not Metroid Warriors, sign me up.
That's what they probably would.
I will even say I would be fine with Warriors. As long as they went with the zaniness of it, because this Age of Imprisonment game was horrible.
I think it'd be more fun if they did, because I don't think a warrior style game makes sense for Metroid because it's like a shooter. I think it'd be more fun if they did maybe like a Left 4 Dead style Metroid game. Like that could be kind of fun, you know.
You know, I own Left 4 Dead, but I've never played it. Actually,
that's so crazy to me.
Yeah,
but you also said you've never watched Saving Private Ryan, so like I don't see
what
how
else
you've
I've never done.
Played.
I've never played a Call of Duty game. It just didn't pique my interest.
I mean that's not super crazy to me, but you are missing out. At least on the good ones. I think we should do here's what we need to do, because they're not going to make any more Metroid multiplayer games apparently. We need to do game nights in the server for games that Andy needs to play. So like we need to do like a Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2 game night. We need to do like those games to force Andy to play good games.
Okay, I'll
that
tell
are
you,
just Metroidvanias and Zelda games.
I will agree to that when you play Xenoblade Chronicles X with me.
I'll play X. I have no problem playing. I'll play 1 and 2. I'll play 3.
Okay.
I'll laugh at that game. I'll play it, but that's a single player game. It's not a multiplayer game.
I will say there's also a bit of an imbalance here. Xenoblade X, granted, I haven't played this either. I would assume Xenoblade X is a massive single player game. A Call of Duty campaign is going to take you like 6 hours.
It's a commitment.
There's a little bit of an imbalance there.
Yeah, Call of Duty campaign you can beat in an afternoon.
Listen,
but
I'm
saying we should play Call of Duty. Okay? We can play some multiplayer though. But the campaign of like Call of Duty 4 or Modern Warfare 2 or Big Red One is way better than Xenoblade as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Those are classics, you know what? Man.
Time Splitters.
Black Ops,
that's
the numbers Mason.
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't do it for me. I'll tell you what, though. One thing I want from 2026, we can all play this together, okay? We can all do it, is I want Viola and I want Samus in Mario Kart World. They should do it. There's no reason not to. I think this game desperately needs something. I think that Mario Kart should just be Nintendo Kart. Doom, I know you hate that, but like, I'm sorry. If it's between Penguin and Samus on Viola and maybe a Metroid track or a Splatoon track or whatever,
Penguin Cow is sick, bro. You're missing out on Cow.
Listen, I've played as Cow. Okay, I've grinded on rails as Cow, but I don't need to grind on rails as Peach, Baby, Rosalina, Ken, Katsu. Like, it's ridiculous. Just make it Nintendo Kart. Like, that's what people want.
I'm so disappointed in Mario Kart World. I don't even have the energy to get worked up over how much I disagree with that.
I 100% agree. Like, you're totally wrong, but I don't even care enough about World. Like, they can put in anyone they want at this point. They can put in the Michelin Man and Burger King for all I care.
They might as well. They've got Cow and Penguin. Like, those are the type of characters. Anyways, like that game. I mean, listen, I'm not like a Mario Kart super fan. I'm a very casual Mario Kart guy, and even I'm just like, man, this game feels like it's missing something, and I think that could be a shot in the arm. Is it going to be the shot in the arm that it needs to be to really turn it around? No,
guys,
probably not.
We got to start talking about good games on this show. We can't go from Prime 4 to Mario Kart World. We got to talk about something good. I can't do it. We got to talk about something good.
That's where we're at. I mean, like, I think that would be cool to have like more Nintendo characters in Mario Kart. You can't. I'm sorry, man. You can't convince me that that wouldn't be better than all these like random non-characters in Mario Kart. Like there's like Baby Waluigi and like Spaceman outfit Mario. It's like, what are we doing?
So transitioning to good games in 2026 on the Switch 2, Doom: The Dark Ages, Doominal Crossing's Game of the Year gets ported to the Switch 2, and more people get to experience a really good game on the Switch 2, with something that this console desperately needs.
I don't even know what I'm looking forward to. My expectations for gaming right now are at like an all-time low. I can't even. The only games I can think of that I'm even remotely interested that are coming out is like GTA and like Elder Scrolls, which I'm not even that excited for because I played Starfield and that was also ass. So I don't even. GTA needs this. I know everyone's like GTA is going to ruin games because it's going to be $1 billion and they have the water particles on the beer glass in HD. But at this point, GTA needs to save games for me. That's where I'm at.
Oof.
I'm not gonna go that far. I played a lot of good stuff this year. It's mostly just been Nintendo that's been disappointing me on that front.
No, you're right. You're right.
I thought that Nintendo
right.
had a week by their standards 2025.
I think 2025 was one of their weakest years ever, personally. Like in terms of
you might be right.
quality.
Yeah, you might be right. Like
the game quality. I think the Switch 2 hardware is great, but the game lineup is atrocious.
I mean, they're probably the best game that they released last year was Donkey Kong Bonanza, and I like Donkey Kong Bonanza, but it's not a Donkey Kong game. Like let's just call it what it is. Like it's a Mario game with Donkey Kong.
I think probably the best game they put out was Kirby Air Riders.
No. I haven't played Kirby Air Riders, but I am not co-signing that. I will say, though, I have heard unanimously that Pokemon Legends is awesome. So maybe...
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. I have heard good things about Pokemon Legends. You're right.
I would like to play that, actually, in 2026, just to experience that. But, I don't disagree. I think that this was a really disappointing year for Nintendo. Like, narratively, they missed on Age of Imprisonment. They missed on Metroid Prime 4. They missed in Donkey Kong Bonanza. Mario Kart World was pretty underwhelming. I don't even know if we had a video game come out before June for the Switch. I legitimately can't think of... Was Princess Peach Showtime this year? Like,
no, that was last year.
Oh.
To be fair to DK, while it didn't resonate with a lot of us, to be fair, that game did review extremely well. I mean, I think it has a 90 or a 91 on Metacritic.
I think because the tastes of the industry and reviewers is bad. It's poor. They are so accepting of low quality these days. They are accepting of slop. That's why. Other M has a 79 on Metacritic. You cannot tell me that the industry is hell. I mean, to be fair, those scores are old, but no, I think the tastes have changed. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I just don't. I don't know what's cool. I don't know what's
sound kind of.
I do. I feel it, and you know what? I think those people are right. I think things are worse, and they were better when I was young. I think they were right. You know,
we need to go back to the days where you would just press A and your video game ended. That you press A and the game's over and the credits roll and. It's just a
you
great
mean you don't
experience.
like hesitating to press A?
These new times are scary.
The Prime Force, like, we want you to hesitate pressing A. We also want you to not care about what's happening. That's what I took away from this interview.
Don't worry about it, okay?
Yeah.
Just don't worry
about it. Don't hit a button. Don't worry about it. Worry about hitting the button, but don't worry about the other stuff.
Yeah. Okay, does anyone else have anything that they want to see from this series in 2026? I promise we won't go long today, but my goodness, we're going long.
I don't know. Other M2, right? I mean, come on, let's do it.
You know what?
Release the Spiteri cut.
I will do another somewhat realistic prediction, kind of in line with your Prime 2 prediction, Andy. It is possible that we get DS games on NSO, and if they did, it would likely be one of the first batch of games would include Metroid Prime Hunters.
Yeah, that could definitely happen.
I really hope. I know I've jokingly said I don't want Prime 5 to come out, and while there is a little bit of truth in that, I don't really mean it. Just to clarify for people who are still listening and have messaged me or responded to me, be like, you know what, Prime 5? I'm obviously joking. But not really. But man, I really hope that if they do make a Prime 5, when they make a Prime 5, I would like some multiplayer. I think it would be fun to have. Now, to be fair, maybe that's not a good idea because they got to get the single player right. But they made the mouse controls, and I feel like it's a wasted opportunity to have that like really cool like Prime doesn't need precision, and then they could actually add a mode that kind of requires it, and they didn't. So I will say after playing Prime 4, I think they need to get their ducks in a row in terms of the single player experience. So I don't necessarily want this, but maybe like again, give it another studio, give it to another like multiplayer based studio who can like remake Hunters or do a spin-off with multiplayer. Like at that point, like I don't know, that could be fun.
I would play
want,
it.
Andy.
Yeah, I would play it. I wouldn't say it's on my list, but I mean at this point, like I said, I'll play anything.
I just when I see them make the mouse controls, I was like, this feels like a perfect fit. So
there you go. Okay, well, there it is. Once again, we encourage you to check out this article on Shinesparkers. Lots of interesting tidbits that you could take away that we didn't touch on in our discussion here. And we want to know what you want to see in 2026 from this series after a very eventful 2025. Will this be a reset year, or will we see Metroid 6 released this year like I want? We'll have to wait and see. Thank you everybody for checking us out, and again, Happy New Year. We hope that you stick with us as the year unfolds and as the fallout for Metroid Prime 4 continues, and hopefully new stuff is announced as well. We do want to let everybody know we are doing this show weekly. Somehow, some way, new episodes are out every single Wednesday. You can find them wherever you get your podcasts or at omegametroid.com, where you can find the entire archive of all of our podcasts and sorted into different show types. So if you want to watch definitive rankings or inspired by Metroids, or maybe you like Alien, it's all there on Omega Metroid. Plus the latest Metroid walkthroughs. We've got our Metroid Prime 4 walkthrough all done and good to go. We have got the latest Metroid news. We've got, if you're a Metroid fan, OmegaMetroid.com is where you need to be. Plus our YouTube page. Give us a subscription there if you ever want to watch these podcasts in video form. You can see our smiling faces, or maybe not smiling faces, as we do these shows. And we got some video walkthroughs over there as well. Check us out over on Blue Sky at Spateri316, at Doominal Cross, at Dax City, at Omega Metroid. And don't forget, next week, Metroid Prime 4 fan Q&A. Give us those questions. Come join us in Discord. We will answer all of your burning questions about this game. That's going to do it for us, my friends. So until next week, everybody, take care. Ciao.